believe so.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Jamie Dow. I'm a professor of philosophy and director of the Steele Center for the Study of Philosophy and Religion, and I want to welcome you to Matter. I'm very excited about this show. We've had exhibits here in Ellis Hall over the years that have been topics of conversation for different classes that I teach. I teach a class called What is Beauty for first-year students, a class called Aesthetics and Contemporary Art. And Sydney took Aesthetics and Contemporary Art last semester and asked to curate a show. And I said, yes, absolutely. That would be a wonderful experience. I'm just want to say that I'm really proud of Sydney for what she did on this project. It is completely her doing. She came up with the ideas and came up with the pitch for this and the call for submissions, organized all of the work's delivery, wrote the material, worked on the advertisements, and I just said, yes, awesome, the whole time. So I just want to say I'm really proud of what you've done, and I'm really excited to engage with the artists and hear about the artists' work. I'm grateful for their contribution and for the discussion today. So let's welcome the artists and welcome Sydney to introduce the show.
All right. Thank you all so much for coming. Like Dr. Dow said, my name is Sydney Austen. I am a senior here at Hendrix, and I was asked to create this awesome exhibit. I was given the opportunity to create this awesome exhibit. I think that it's a well-known fact on campus that I'm a bit of a museum nerd. So I have been working at the Wingate Museum of Art here at Hendrix for about 2 years. And this is just a fantastic opportunity to continue to have experience curating and create a really awesome exhibit. So when it came to creating the idea for the exhibit, I knew that I wanted to examine museum work on a deeper level. I have been studying the way that cultural objects have been moving between collections and between museums all around the world. And I wanted to apply that phenomenon to our daily life and consider how the objects that we encounter are imbued with cultural or with personal significance. So that kind of segued into the idea of material culture and how we inform our identities through the objects that we surround ourselves with. So yeah, we created a call for submissions and luckily heard back from a number of really, really talented artists. And when it came to selecting the artworks that appeared in the final show, I knew that I wanted to include a wide variety of different aspects of material culture. So objects that take on a more invisible role versus a very visible role, masculinity versus femininity, how the objects that we include in our daily lives change as we enter different phases of our lives. So I wanted to make sure a lot of different experiences were represented. So with that, I reached out to 6 incredible artists, 2 of which, Kathleen Thum and Jordan Kornreich, unfortunately were not able to join us tonight, and 2 of which are being sort of delayed and being able to join the Zoom call, but we hope that they will be here in a minute. So with that, if each of our artists would like to introduce themselves and speak a little bit about the artwork that featured in the show, Fabiola, we can start with you.
Hi, everybody. Hey, nice to meet you. I'm very excited to be here. Can you hear me?
Just a moment.
Can you hear me? Hello? I can hear you just perfectly. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, now there's the feedback. Okay, can you hear me now? I can't hear you anymore, but I'll talk anyway. Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. When I found the open call, I thought it was just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, because I can't hear you. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was very excited about the subject and the theme of the show. I thought It was just somehow perfectly fitted with my body of work. I am I was born and raised in Milan, Italy. I'm Italian, and then I spent almost 10 years of my life now living in California. And I started this body of work that is all about still life and objects just as soon as I became a mom, because when I became a mom, I found myself stuck in the house between COVID in Milan, that was the epicenter of where everything started, and a little baby. There was nothing else to paint, and I love to paint from life. So I just started to look at inside my house, and these two paintings that are in the show are from 2022. And at that time, I was starting to um, experiment also, because I'm mainly a painter. I paint in oil, but I started to also do some embroidery. And so these two pieces are a little special for me, because that was the beginning of that experiment. Yeah, the two paintings are also informed by a book that I was reading that time, and the book is The Great Mother by Newman. Newman was the student of Jung, so it's all that book was all about archetypes, so the feminine archetypes, and how art in different times of period and different geographic areas can show us different aspects of same feminine archetype in different ways. So that's kind of like a little introduction. I can't hear you, so wait a minute.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
Caleb, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, my name is Caleb. I am I'm an artist that works with a lot of materials, mostly everyday materials. I'm very interested in the objects that we surround ourselves with, the way that we construct identity through creating collections and like bringing these objects together. What it means when like objects no longer serve a purpose for us and they're like left behind. I'm interested in like what we can know from people by the objects they leave behind. And so often I'm like collecting objects, found objects, and like turning them into something else or engaging with them in some way in order to like tell that story of like what I think is so interesting about those things. The piece that I have in the show is I was really like I was thinking about the histories that get preserved and the stories that get told and the sort of holes of the archive and the holes of history. And what if it were possible to try to like make something that's about like preserving or trying to save or hold on to what little scraps one has of these histories, like thinking in particular for myself about queer histories. But and so I constructed this like holy quilt made out of like the holes in primarily one guy's jeans that I like found as a huge lot of this one guy's like holes in his jeans. But I was thinking about like, you know, the human wear on objects, like what it means to like see use, to see the body, like, you know, all those sort of like who even knows what's left behind in these things, our skin cells, our very physical selves, but also like, you know, worn from the way that we live our lives. And so like trying to piece all of those together and preserve this thing that should be past its life cycle, even also thinking about like the way that clothing is discarded, or like the way fast fashion operates. So it's sort of like, what if we hold on to these things as precious, these things that should be that many people think are disposable? So some of the things I was thinking about as I made the piece I made for the show.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I know that Molly and Nathan have just joined. If you would be able to give a brief introduction to both to yourselves and to the artworks that you have featured in the exhibit.
Hi. Thanks for having us. I'm Molly Joburg, and let's see here. I am more of a three-dimensional artist. I have a background in working with glass and clay and kind of making installations with multiples. And
I'm Nathan Gorgon, and I have background in painting and also digital fabrication and sort of wood and metal sculpture.
And we started collaborating around 2017. We kind of joke that we're basically like art gym partners, basically. But part of that what came manifested after the birth of our first child, kind of trying to figure out how to still have a practice and also navigate having some, having jobs and also having children. And actually it worked out really well. So I think we always encounter a lot of people who are like, oh, we could never work with our partner. And our line is kind of like we're both middle children. So we feel like we've always had to compromise most of our lives. But one of the things that has been interesting is the shift in our work over the years of kind of navigating art making and life and parenting and kind of also dealing with possessions. We moved about 2.5 years ago to Cincinnati from Columbus. And so that really made us start to think about the objects that we own and kind of in some ways how they own us. And then also the things that people are attached to or not attached to. And so when we started making the series that's actually featured at the Steel Center, a lot of that had to do with almost like a seek and find in some ways of the different objects that are kind of filtering in and out of our daily lives amongst all of this kind of ornate ephemera. We use a lot of like these beads and different kind of vintage and heirloom components and decorative things in there. So do you want to talk about it a little? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's basically, we're doing, looking at, our kind of domestic situation and, the things that come and go through our lives in the lens of that. And, we use a method of collecting those and kind of capturing them via vacuum former that allows us to create these kind of spontaneous compositions with this interesting material that we have actually just, around us all the time.
Yeah, they're almost like dimensional prints, which is not something you can get as quickly or easily in a normal mold making fashion. But we rely a lot on our fabrication knowledge for how to build up these compositions within the vacuum former in order to make the piece work, basically. So great.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm really excited by how each of these works. I'm really excited by how each of these works feels like they're in like conversation with each other. So that's really exciting. So with that, I would love to open it up for questions for myself or for the artists. If anybody has a question they would like to ask. Okay.
Can they hear me if I just talk?
Can you hear the audience? Excellent.
Okay. Hi, I'm the invisible voice. My question is, when Sydney sent out this call for submissions, did you already have like a piece made that would fit well into it, or did you design a piece specifically for this exhibition?
I'm gonna start first. Yeah, I actually, these two pieces were from 2022. So the paintings were at the gallery in Milan. And I thought they were perfect, first of all, because of the size, and then because of the theme. And they go together as a series. There used to be 5 paintings in this series, and now yeah, these are the 2 left, and I thought this is gonna be perfect So yeah, they were already there. I had to bring them back from Europe to the States because this summer I was in Italy, so I rolled them up, shipped them with me, and then shipped it to Sydney for the show. And I thought it was perfect, you know, it was just like the right timing and the right pieces. It just worked out. So
For me, the theme of the show is exactly the theme of so much of my work. So it was really about like what best addressed the call and what best fit the space and the way that that functions. So for me, I was like, wow, this is sort of like a perfect match with things I'm already thinking about.
We had a similar situation where the work had already been created, and knowing that it needed to be shipped, it was we actually had these pieces in a show out in California, so I knew that the work would make it well, basically. But interesting, reading the call was almost like finding sections of our own artist statement within it. And so it just felt like a really natural fit and very easy to see the work as a part of it. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's really nice. Sometimes you come across these calls. You know, many times you have to, you know, it's a stretch, right, to find a call, and you're like, yeah, maybe our work will fit in that, maybe not. But this one was actually very, very well aligned, so we were really happy to apply to it.
And I also think, you know, so I recently finished a PhD and I do writing now, and it goes into publications, and once it gets published, it can only be in that publication kind of idea. And I think the challenging thing with artwork is that it is very different in person. And so it's so exciting to have our work being shown in a different part of the country. So even though it has shown other places, like knowing that more people can engage with it is actually, that's really exciting for us.
Yeah.
So
I was really excited to encounter like your pieces in particular because I was thinking a lot about the space of the Steel Center. So I'm glad that y'all mentioned sort of the way that they were the perfect size. They were the perfect way that they could be in conversation with each other as you move throughout the space. So I was also very excited to encounter y'all's pieces. Anybody else? Celeste?
Hi. Sydney, first of all, of course, I am bursting with pride for you. You're just the bee's knees. I would love to hear from you as well. So what was sort of the most surprising thing of this process of putting this together, and what was a moment of joy that you found in doing this work?
The most surprising thing. I mean, I was very, very excited to have gotten pieces that felt like they were perfect for this vision that I had in mind of this exhibit. And this is, you know, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So it was really, really exciting to have this, you know, perfect situation to work out to where I could do this as an undergrad and I could create something that I was really, really proud of. And I've been carrying that joy all summer. So thank you. I also have a few questions. I know Fabiola and Molly and Nathan, you both mentioned the way that parenthood has informed your work to a certain degree. So I wanted to ask if the way that your children interact with objects has changed your perspective on material culture in any way or changed your relationship to your art.
Yeah, I would say that it definitely has. I mean, I think children are very creative little creatures, and they will just kind of make stuff and be, you know, they're very spontaneous. And I think maybe like, you know, and I've noticed this with a lot of artists and ourselves included, there's like a levity that comes with being a parent artist a lot of times where you're just like, you know, it can't help but be inspirational. Just like kids are just like leaving little piles of things all over the place. And especially if you make art that is kind of pile oriented, which ours is, it's like, oh, okay, yeah. And we actually often will have them in the studio with us, like when we're working on the vacuum former, and we let them, you know, kind of fiddle around with like all little pieces. Sometimes they help us pick stuff out, and they can help us arrange stuff sometimes.
although they're not as into it anymore.
Yeah, they're maybe a little bored with it.
one of our daughter's friends went with us to the studio and she's like, you are the coolest parents. And I was like, Percy's like, oh my God, they're doing it again.
Yeah, she was like watching TV.
So, but I do think there was a period of time where it's been especially interesting seeing how they feel that anything can be a sculpture or a piece of artwork, and then kind of like thinking like, well, maybe it is a sculpture or a piece of artwork, but then how we then have to curate it a little bit more so as we go along.
Yeah.
So.
Plus they are the sources for like a wide array of the things that we include in our work, because they just constantly bring stuff home. Pockets full of rocks, like, you name it. They're like avid collectors. So.
And they want to know where the rocks are.
Yeah.
Like, where'd you put that, Mom? And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I put it back outside.
Yeah.
So I'll let Fabiola.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, well, first of all, like having kids is really a shock to the system, like complete shock to the system. So for me, the way I looked at things around me changed drastically, and I have one daughter, so, and that's more than enough. In my paintings, I just like things that I used to look at became all of a sudden charged with a really strong emotions. So that's what really moved me towards still life, because objects hold this significance, especially in the domestic setting, that in a way psychologically makes us feel safe, and also are used to make kids feel safe. And you realize when you have kids how this is this big chain, intergenerational chain that has been happening for centuries through moms and grandmas, and so everything becomes sort of magical. Also because the kids, as Molly was saying, make you look at things in a more magical way, because everything becomes new. You see everything for the first time again. You become a child at the same time. So that kind of pushed me through these explorations, also objects as through folklore, Italian folklore, where superstition also is very much alive, and then it's like the positive and negative all of a sudden you can see them merging together in the objects around you, and it kind of reflects human psychology in a way, or in my case, the mother psychology too, where you want to nurture and really, nurture, but at the same time, you also have a life and you're creative and you want to explore the world. So it's a constant pull and push. And I think that having kids really, for me, really showed this pull and push. And it became really interesting to make art. So that's kind of like.
Caleb, you had mentioned that just you used the gene of one person. Yeah. Was that more or less one person, or literally one person, and then why that person?
It's sort of by chance, like mostly access, like in like usually I'm responding to found objects, that like an object that sort of like sparks a series of questions or ideas for me, and then I like take that thing home and like am doing something to it. But in this case, like this was something that I'd been sort of like, I don't know, obsessed with. What would it look like to make like a quilt of holes? And I had just been searching and searching and searching for something to like, how can I create this thing that I'm like now kind of obsessed with? And happened upon someone. People sell the strangest things sometimes, like on eBay. And so it's literally like someone was selling just this huge collection of like they'd been saving, I don't know, they're like completely worn out jeans. And I was like, I need those. So it really came like from that. And then I just needed like to gather some others to sort of fill in and finish and make this thing. So I don't know, other people's collections or other people's leftovers sometimes fall in my lap. And then it's all about like, I don't know, engaging with those and thinking about what these objects mean.
Do what? Sure. So with that, we would love to invite you to walk around the exhibit and engage with the arts personally. The artists are going to remain on the call. They will be available to walk up and ask questions that you might not have gotten to ask during the Q&A. Dr. Dow and I will also be walking around to answer questions. And I once again wanted to thank you all so much for coming.